Well, we're live. Hi, JJ. Thanks for being here. I am excited to bring to you another conversation about retreating and introducing to you some of the amazing humans that I've been able to meet along my journey of facilitating retreats. But the friendships that ensued and the things that followed after have been the big inspiration for coming live and talking about these things. So, JJ, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and then just going to kind of get into a chat about the ripple effect of retreating.
Well, I'm so glad to be here, Michelle. And I was so excited because giving us the space to reflect on different decisions in our lives and how those have manifested maybe the next step is so powerful because we don't think about it all the time as entrepreneurs, as authors, as businesswomen. But I do think there's a lot of benefit to carving out space to get out of your schedule.
Yeah, I do too. And slowing down enough to just hear yourself think or put the pieces together is really huge because it's really easy to not do that. It's really easy to just be like, oh, just keep going, all the things, right? So you've been on retreats with me, and part of the intention behind these is like, who is this person, Michelle Lane? What retreats does she do? Why would I even care? And how do I get to know her more? Right? But more so like the passion that's in the space of creating these containers. I want to know your experience, your heartfelt experience from top to bottom. I mean, I love the story of how we met and how we actually came to be in person. And I'd love for you to share your aspect of that. What were you looking for? You were obviously looking for a retreat at the time.
Well, like many people at the time, I'd been in my house with my family for a awfully long time, and I just needed space. I needed space away from the dishwasher. I needed space away from my desk, and I definitely needed space away from just the people I love because I knew I was embarking on the next chapter of my life, but I didn't really understand how it was going to unfold. And so I found myself on Google, which a lot of people do, searching like where is somewhere I can go. And I started with hotels and programming, but then I quickly turned to retreats because I think retreats, especially organized by women and especially women that have been on an amazing journey that has been so challenging, but also an opportunity to dive into the next version of themselves, are often the best retreat leaders. And I know you're so great and vulnerable at sharing your journey and sort of where you started and how you got to this point. And I felt like after reading your bio and looking at your schedule, that would be great because I'm not a yogi and I'm not a cleanser and I'm not a silent retreat person. So if you take those three retreat searches out, there's not a lot of retreats that are really about nurturing your soul and diving into your next or creating space to reflect on the past. And for me, I put in I believe the entire month of March, and I came up with like three retreats. And I was just sitting there going, should I go to New Hampshire or should I go to Mount Shasta? Or should I go to a hotel that's hosting, an event in Texas? And that's kind of where my first search took me.
I love that. And like I'm just like thinking back right now in that moment of like just having all of those choices and then saying yes to Mount Shasta. Was it Mount Shasta specific or more just the vibe of the retreat where you just felt that pull? The one thing I know true for myself as well as the women that have come to past retreats is I don't even know why it was this one, but I just felt pulled to be there. And I always feel like that's such a divine connection, such divine guidance to bring us together.
That is the truth. And I kind of did the same thing. Like I called both retreat leaders and was like just trying to get to know them and understand the schedule and really trying to figure out what really felt right to me. And after talking with you, I was like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be. But then my ego kicked in and said, ha, you know what? You should really just go to New Hampshire because you can drive there. It's shorter amount of time. It's like it's not as much of a commitment.
Right.
You don't have to ask for as much permission or feel as guilty by going to that. And that's where I was planning to go, was New Hampshire. And I was sitting on it. I wasn't registering. And then when I was registering, and at one point I was like, all right, JJ, why haven't you registered yet? What is the problem?
Right.
And I just didn't want to go there. Even though it was a great retreat, it just wasn't really calling me. And I had always heard about Mount Shasta, but I knew it was really hard for me to get to. But I just decided that if I was going to commit to something that I was aligned to, I was going to take the time to do it. And I feel like It was exactly the amount of time that I needed, because had I gone to the other retreat, one, I don't think it would have been enough time. It wouldn't give me the space I needed to really get into the moment and really experience like that next level of self connection.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that retreat pulled totally different women, which I'm sure were equally as fabulous, but probably not where I needed to be.
right.
And so then, it just worked out with my miles and the rental car. And I just really saw it as an adventure.
I so many things. One, decision. Second, commitment. There's an energy in the decision and the commitment together. They're different when you just decide, but you're not all in, right? The minute you decide energetically and you're all in and you commit to it, I swear every single time that energetic, I'm all in, I've decided this is for me. The universe matches that energy and starts just aligning things, making it simpler and more easeful, and everything that makes it easy for you to be there happens. Because I really feel strongly that there's something for you to discover about you that you haven't been able to connect with. It really has nothing to do with me. I provide a container, right? This is about you. This is about you with the land. This is about you when you step away. This is about you when you hear yourself think. This is about you when you give yourself the space and give yourself permission to receive what's going to be there for you. And I'd love for you to speak to what happened after, what happened during, what happened after. I mean, you knew nobody, including a couple conversations on the phone with me. And there you go.
Yeah, I
Right.
didn't know anybody, but I wasn't afraid because I felt like I am guided by the universe to go where I need to go. But I will tell you, it was funny because, well, first of all, let me just back up for a second. Everything is frequency, everything is energy. And so, you creating the container with your daughter, with your friends, with people that have worked with you for a while, your mentor, like that shares a frequency. And I love that because you're going to attract like frequencies. And so, I was not afraid to come. I was excited because I was like, if she's attracting me, she's attracting other people like me too.
Yeah.
And I think for many of us, if we're being pulled to something, somebody that we need to meet or somebody we're going to connect with is going to be pulled to something like that too. So I do think each retreat has its own frequency, just like every book, every podcast has its own frequency. And you're going to be attracted to kind of where you are in your journey and the lessons you need to learn. I think the funniest thing is when I pulled up, and I love that you send out like videos and such. You sent out a video of like pulling in, and it would like, it eased my mind because I had gotten off the plane and I was like, oh my gosh, now where am I going in the woods somewhere? But you had sent a video. So I was like, oh, okay, that looks like something place I would love. So I ended up driving. And when I saw the red cabins, I was like, oh, okay, here we are. We're here. And when we pulled in, nobody, I didn't know anybody there, but I pulled in, I thought I knew people. Like it was like, I almost like, oh, I know her, or I know her. I didn't know them, but I knew their energy. And that was what was amazing. It's just that first night and everyone just introducing themselves and talking about what brought them there. Because as you know, women carry so much. And when we come together in these sacred spaces, and especially in places like Mount Shasta, like not only are we being summoned to go there, but we're being summoned to come with certain people. And I feel like everybody that came as a stranger walked away as a friend. And I feel like it's not just the energy of the mountain, but it's the energy of all of us coming together and being open to something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And again, like the words always sound so amazing, but when you're there and you're actually in the energy of what it is, it's something you take away, the state of being that's within you where you really connected in a way that you can't in anywhere else. It just proves time and time again this next layer of yourself was unfolding. We call it emerge because there's another layer of you emerging. There's one already here, it's bubbling under the surface. Will you let her come through? Will you let her write the book, expand the business? Will you let her start a new venture? Will you let her be all she wants to be? Or will you fall prey to limitations and stories of the mind saying you're too old, it's too late, like whatever it is. And the moment that you've got yourself on the other side of that and you've connected with whatever it was keeping you stuck, moving through that energetically and knowing that it can expand, what did you discover after? Like like I said, the reason I'm having these conversations is because I realized there was some magic that actually happened for every person who had attended in their own personal or professional life. And I really like sharing that because it's been true for me too on other retreats, on live events, on things that I didn't know I was going, but I knew I had to be there.
Well, it's funny. I just want to say one thing that I was nervous about, just in case anyone
I love
hasn't.
it. Yeah.
So I was nervous about having a roommate because a lot of events that I go to, I don't have a roommate because I need time to process. But by the time I signed up, I think it was like a week from or 2
Mhm.
weeks from the time, and it was pretty much sold out. And somebody had canceled, I think, and I got in, which obviously is a miracle in itself. But Kathleen and I were roommates, and I would say it was amazing. I had developed such a wonderful relationship with her in the short time that we spent together. We had a lot of time, and it was great to have somebody to like regroup or hash out or talk through things once we left the group setting. So we had a lot of fun doing that. We even went on our own hike, which was a lot of fun. So I'll call out to her because I think, that was just really fun. And we worked through her business in the room, and I talked about my business. And so we had other conversations that were related to our businesses outside of the group setting. So that was fantastic. And then many other people like Helen and many others I've talked to since the retreat. So I've really created some really nice friendships over just a few days. And I feel like I didn't feel so alone. That was the one thing, because the work that I do, sometimes it can be lonely. I do a lot of energy work, a lot of spiritual work.
Yeah.
I'm a leader for a lot of things that I'm doing, and it's nice to just come and show up and be and not be in charge of anything.
I
And I really loved that. And I really appreciated the space you created for the retreat because it is a lot of work to put these things together. And once you host retreats, you can appreciate retreats a lot more. But even if you're not in the retreat space, it's just nice not to have to think that much and just show up. The meals are there, the activities are there. You can do them, not do them. It's really up to you.
yeah,
Uh, but as to the question, right? The
okay,
question. So first of all, I just want to say, so seeking is what I was doing. This is the title of my third book, Seeking, and I was seeking to really find what my next chapter of life was.
yeah.
And I feel like after the pandemic and things had shifted for me, I wasn't going to do as much speaking, which I do a lot of speaking. And little did I know, as I was pulling away from Mount Shasta, I remember looking in my rearview mirror, looking at the mountain and just thinking like how majestic it was, and some reflecting on some of the things that we did there. And I don't want to share everything because it's some of them is just such a wonderful surprise. But we had some field trips which were
Yeah.
really fantastic, and I left there. And as I was driving away, I got a little message, and like in the form of a thought, saying, "Bring the mystics together."
Mm.
And I was thinking, bring the mystics together. I was like, surely you have the wrong car. Like, there's cars in front of me, there's cars behind me. They're much more mystic than I am. And I could still see the mountain. And I heard it again, bring the mystics together. And I was like, what in the world? No way. Who would that be? Like, what would that look like?
Right.
And so I think sometimes when you get messages, they sound so ridiculous. And this has happened many times over the last 15 years where I get messages and my first response is, not me, wrong car. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But within 9 months of leaving the retreat, I decided to write my third book after I had been really socializing the book proposal for months, and I just was not landing it anywhere. And I decided, after getting many conversations and calls about some of the material I was putting in the book, that was the universe's way of saying, write the book, write the book.
Yeah.
So I eventually wrote the book, and I decided to share all the energy practitioners I've worked with, which now is about 100, because I'm on a mission to really understand all the different ancient practices and people out there that are helping us remove the darkness to create more room for light.
Yeah.
And I created a community in combination with this book, Seeking, to give easy access to the readers to find energy practitioners that may help them work through childhood stories or trauma or bad relationships or experiences, that are no longer serving you. And so I created this community called Together We Seek. And through that, I'm easily sharing practitioners that I had to just go out and find myself various ways. And now I really thought it was going to be a community for business women to get in touch with ancient practices and energy workers. But in reality, it's turning out to be quite a community for energy practitioners and
Yeah.
light workers.
I love that. And it's been really fun to witness the unfolding of that, be a part of it, and just be able to connect with you from time to time and be like, what's going on? What's happening? What's going, like, and how we've both grown, how we've both shared. But the fact that that birthed from a container that was facilitated for exactly that. Like, I love sharing these stories because you never know where they're going to lead, but the ripple effect is tenfold. And the clarity of who you became and how what you wanted to express and how you wanted to bring your magic into the world just got to unfold one step at a time afterward because you gave yourself what you needed.
Yeah, and the really the last session for us of the last day, I was going to leave early and I ended up extending my flight to get in that last session because we had just this magical experience that I wasn't even planning to stay for because I had to fly all the way back to the East Coast on a red eye, and I ended up changing my flight to stay. And that last section of the last day was the time that it really came full circle for me to remind me who I am.
Mm.
And I feel like I've been trying to skirt that a lot this lifetime because of a lot of stuff that has happened in previous times. And I feel like being there with the women that came together that time was for me, with the energy of the mountain, just a visual experience of the work I'm supposed to be doing here. And I feel like, yes, would that have come some other time? Probably at some point. But the fact that it was like perfectly orchestrated with the energy of the mountain, the frequency of the women, the schedule is really kind of fast forwarded it for me.
Yeah, and I've done enough of these now. This will be my sixth retreat where that's a common occurrence, right? You'll discover what you wanted to discover that you didn't know what it was going to be from giving yourself that time. It's like the aha moment drops in, the thing. And it hasn't been untrue for myself in other spaces as well. And so I'm going to own that. I'm going to own that this is a container that does just that, right? And part of our journey has been so beautiful and like just keep being more of you, Michelle. Step up, keep doing the things, express things your way, do it your way. And it's taken a couple years for me to realize that's okay. And so I think that's a big shift and part of it too, that we can just be who we are and express that even more without having to compare it to others or follow all the rules of should, need tos, or have tos we grew up with, and just let our heart sing because it leads us to really incredible work in the world.
It does. It does. And we are here to help each other. We are here, even though we are containerized, as Elizabeth Gilbert shares in many of her books, is like we're all in these little boxes all over the planet. We are meant to come together. And yes, there are many people that depend on us, but we have to carve out the time for ourselves to remember why we're really here.
Yeah, we all have a soul's purpose. We all have a unique expression, and we don't find it doing the same thing day in, day out when we're feeling, I don't know, it's like a pull. It's like, and then there's more, right? And not everybody has it, but for those that tune into it, there's something for you to learn in it. And the tools, the modalities, the energy work, we had started numerology back then. And now when Jen and I come together, we've really expanded it because we deep dove into our own education for 3 years into that ancient system, because it truly does give you a picture of remembering who you are and an alignment in, hey, I'm right on track. And this is where I can feel those nudges deep within me. It's like a confirmation. So the retreats expanded, the expressions expanded. The workshops are always tailored for those who are coming. And so it's never the one same thing twice, which I think is why some people come more than once. And also, it's that expression for all of us to come together in that moment because there's equally stuff for me to learn, just like there is for you. And it doesn't happen anywhere without being in that container. I think it's just very special for all the reasons we said. So let's wrap this up. Thank you so much. What would you say um, would be the one thing that you want to share if you're on the fence whether to go, not go, make the time, not make the time? What wisdom can you share?
You know, what I do a lot of times if I'm on the fence is I just put my hand on my heart and I just think about my options and I really just feel into what is really calling me. And I feel like you can use your body as a tool to lean into things that are calling you. You just have to get in the present moment and really just think about, should I stay home? How does that feel? Should I go to that graduation party or wedding or family reunion or, birthday party? Should I go on this retreat? Like, what is that that's truly calling you? Because you don't want to be somewhere wishing you were somewhere else. And I feel like your body will tell you if you ask it.
I absolutely agree. I feel like the body holds the truth, and then the mind gets in and starts telling you all the reasons why it
Yes.
can't happen, and discerning that, or even just learning to discern that, is really huge. The first initial reaction is always your truest. And yeah, thank you so much for your time today. You'll have links for me so I can put things below for people to locate you and connect with you if they're feeling inclined. And thanks for sharing from your heart today.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. And thanks for all your guidance. And thanks for my help with my book. I leaned on you for your wisdom with numbers. And I just really appreciate the relationship that we've created and continue to nurture. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, my honor. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and talk to you later.
Great. You too. Good luck.